Today I'm taking you for a ride on this commuter train in Montenegro, dating back more than 40 years and based on one of the most popular train models in the former Soviet Union. Join me for a trip back in time as I show you what it's like to ride these trains from another era in 2025, including its unique interior and very strange toilet. We'll be heading through Montenegro's beautiful landscape, from its capital Podgorica through to its coastal mountains to the popular seaside resorts of Sutomore and Bar.
My name is Simon, and today we are catching Montenegro's Soviet-era commuter train.
Our journey begins at the Podgorica railway station in Montenegro's small capital city, home to about 180,000 people. While the station has been served by railway since 1927, the modern-day railway station on this site dates back to just after World War II. The passenger area of the station building is rather small, with a small corridor housing the ticket office as well as some vending machines. There's no online ticketing available, so I got my ticket today the old-fashioned way. There is also a small indoor waiting room, but on a hot day like this, I think we should head outside. As we head onto the platforms, we can see that Podgorica is by no means a huge station, but it is still the heart of Montenegro's railway network. The 3 passenger tracks serve all passenger trains in the country, with Podgorica being the main junction. The timetable can easily be summarized as 3 round trips a day between BIZZARE and Bar, supplemented by the daily night train to Belgrade and the seasonal day train. Then you got the line up to ZPCG with 5 daily round trips, as well as a few short turns to Bar, operating 6 times a day. There is also a railway line to Albania, but this one hasn't seen passenger services for many years. As I was here quite early for my train, there was not much going on at the station. But the occasional freight train carrying goods to and from the port in Bar did come through the station. The main maintenance facility for the Montenegrin railways is located towards the end of the station facing Bar. Here we can see one of the Soviet commuter trains just being left to rot, unfortunately. Montenegro used to have a large fleet of these trains, but with time just 2 have become operational, with a 3rd unit currently away from major repair works in Serbia. But in addition to this, they also have 3 modern CIF Civity multiple units delivered in 2013. And also a few loco-haul trains that seem mostly to work trains up towards BIZZARE. However, what trains are being used in Montenegro is a bit of a random generator. And I knew I was screwed when I first saw one of the CIF trains go out of the depot, followed by another one, while the Soviet-era commuter train went back into the shed. So I came back the next day and caught the same departure, where luck was finally on my side. This is a Class 412, built by RVR in Riga around 1985 and capable of 120 km per hour. These trains are often just simply called Elektrichka, which is a broad term for many of the electric commuter trains built around the time, including many by the RVR factory in Latvia back during the Soviet Union. It's a bit hard to get an exact number, but well over 1500 electric train sets were built by them and exported everywhere from the Balkans to eastern Siberia. Anyway, as our train is about to depart, let's climb on board. As you probably expected, there's no seat reservations or anything like that on board. So in the end I managed to grab one of these solo seats by the middle of the train. We depart on time at 12:55, heading slowly out of the station and past much of the abandoned rolling stock by the depot next to the station. And as we leave the station behind, let's take a closer look at the route we'll be following today. We are catching local train 6155. Leaving Podgorica, we'll make 9 intermediate stops on this 50-kilometer long journey that's scheduled to take 1 hour to reach Bar. This gives the train an average speed of 50 km per hour. As we head out of the city, the airport comes into view, and just like in many other countries, Montenegro has its own airport railway link. In this case, it's a tiny shelter located about a 20-minute walk from the terminal, where the train does not even fit on the platform. But hey, it still counts. In general, much of the infrastructure in Montenegro along its railway lines are in quite poor condition. Even larger stations with proper buildings and more than just one track remains largely unchanged from when they were built, with short, low platforms and a classic Balkan vibe. A lot can be said about this, of course, but the most important part is that it still works, carrying lots of people down to the coast every day. The further we get from the capital, progressively the scenery gets nicer, so before we get to sit down and enjoy that, let me show you the seats on board. The train features upholstered benches, which I've actually not seen before on an Elektrichka, despite having ridden quite a few of them all over the former Soviet Union, and they turned out to be very strange. Both the headrest and the base of the seat was incredibly well padded, but the back of the seat had literally none, which was both very strange and not very comfortable, I have to say. In terms of other features, well, there is a luggage rack, some coat hooks, and that's about it really. There's also been another strange modification to this train's interior, but we'll get to that a bit later in the video, as now we're getting to one of the most scenic parts of the journey. We're traveling next to Lake Skadar, the largest lake in southern Europe, which is shared between Montenegro and Albania. On the other side of the lake you have the large Albanian town the lake gets its name from. It really looks stunning on a summer's day like this, but somehow this is not the only scenic highlight of this journey, but we'll have to travel a bit further for the next. So as we leave the lake behind, let's instead take a closer look at the rest of the train's interior. The entire train features second class throughout with this bench-like seating. However, on a previous trip to Montenegro, I travelled on their other serviceable Elektrichka, and this one had a completely different interior. So I do have to wonder the one that's currently being refurbished in Serbia, what that's gonna look like. But I have to say, the toilet was the most surprising thing about this train, because it was actually in really good condition for an Elektrichka. These are normally disgusting and sometimes just a squat hole to the ground. Yeah, it's not perfect, but we have a proper toilet that even flushes and with a toilet seat. A nice and clean sink that's not completely missing, which even seems to retain its original Soviet water tap. The toilet paper floating in the sky was definitely a bit weird, but this is by far the nicest toilet I've ever seen on an old Soviet commuter train like this. Back at my seat, we are now stopping at Virpazar, a small town situated very close to the lake and the coastal mountains. The mountains really now start to dominate the area, once again offering some incredible scenery on this lovely summer's day. We make a stop at Cernica, which I think might be the least used station on the line, seemingly the only thing the station serves being a few houses on a hill over a kilometer away. As we depart, we can really pick up the pace through this sparsely populated area, reaching a whopping 70 km per hour, although at these speeds the train does bounce around considerably. We are now about to enter the Sosnia tunnel, taking us under the mountains and to the coast. This 6 km long tunnel is the longest on the legendary Belgrade to Bar railway and was a really impressive engineering feat at the time it was built back in the 70s. We emerge on the other side of the tunnel in the resort town of Sutomore, situated on the Adriatic coast. It's one of the more popular stations on the route, with many passengers alighting here. As a single-track railway line, we also meet with a freight train here that's been waiting for us to come out of the tunnel. And shortly afterwards we get going again, with just about 15 minutes left before we'll get to the end of the railway line in Bar. So, let me start summarizing the trip. I've really enjoyed my trip with the Montenegrin railways today. Sure, these old Soviet trains are a little rough around the edges, especially with all the graffiti on the outside. But on the inside they're kept mostly clean and offer a fine ride. With a single ticket from Podgorica to Bar costing just 2.8 euros, there's really not much to complain about. However, the future for both these commuter trains and the hauled passenger ones is currently uncertain, as Montenegro has launched a tender for 3 new trains here in 2025, set to be delivered in the coming years. So, if you want to ride one of these classic trains, you gotta make your way down to Montenegro in the next few years. Before arriving into actual Bar, we make one more stop on the outskirts of town before beginning the approach into the actual Bar station. So, as we pull into our final stop, I'm going to ask you, would you ride one of these Elektrichka trains in 2025, or would you perhaps prefer one of the newer air-conditioned trains from CAF? Let me know in the comments down below. And here we are, arriving into Bar railway station, a couple of minutes behind schedule after what's been a cheap and cheerful ride with the Montenegrin railways. Thank you so much for joining me on this trip. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, as I try to upload a new one every Sunday. You can also follow me over on Blue Sky at intercitysimon.com. I usually post live from my travels in real time over there, so it's a great place to get a sneak peek of what videos might be coming to the channel in the future. Thanks for watching.